uh, leadership convening. We've got our state leadership grants today for Temple College, ACC, and another Temple grant. We will also, for the first time, ask our Perkins Equitable Access and Opportunity Grant Program awardees to present. This is our initial awards of these programs, so we're pleased to be able to present those to you today, those of you viewing. We will just go ahead and start quickly. Our first panel will be moderated by, who's our moderator for our first panel?
Ms. Patricia McGee.
Okay, and I'll just turn it over to you, Tanisha. If you will introduce Patricia, we will be on our way. Thank you.
Good morning to everyone. Our Day 2 overview consists of 2 panels that focuses on enhancing equity, access, and student support. Our panel 1, our colleges that's presenting their leadership grants are Temple College, ACC, and another presentation by Temple College. Our moderator is Ms. Patricia McGee Welch. Panel 2 consists of all of our Perkins Equitable Access and Opportunity programs. And the colleges that are presenting are ACC, Amarillo, Texas Southmost, and Texas State Technical College. And our moderator for panel 2 is our very own Mindy Nobles. Please note there is time allocated after each panel for question and answers. Post all your questions in the Q&A option and they will be answered accordingly. For our panel 1 moderator, Ms. Patricia McGee Welch. Patricia started her career in higher education at Stephen F. Austin State University in the Office of Financial Aid, and now has nearly 2 decades of experience at large in mid-sized universities and community colleges. A Houston native, she spent 6 years away at the University of Oklahoma working in their aviation department. The opportunity presented itself to return to Houston when her husband accepted a teaching position in the area. From there, Patricia accepted a position at the University of Houston Clear Lake, dedicating 5 years to their Office of Sponsor Programs, dealing primarily in grant development and research compliance. Today, Patricia coordinates the Perkins Grant at San Jacinto College, and she's responsible for tracking and administration for the Perkins Basic Grant across the entire college district, which is nearly a $1.6 million budget in funding. Since taking over program administration in 2019, the college's Perkins student support funding has increased over 200%. Thank you, Patricia, for assisting us with moderating. You can have the show.
Thank you, Tanisha, for that introduction. To get us started today, I'll introduce our first panel, which is another Temple College panel. Dr. Leslie Keeling Olson is the director of Perkins Grant and a professor of criminal justice at Temple College. She's been with the college for 21 years and working with Perkins for the last 16 years. She has written and managed numerous Perkins leadership grants, all designed to help provide resources, information, and/or ideas to help Perkins basic grant directors and Perkins contacts develop their CLNAs and write their Perkins basic grant narratives. Specific to this year, Leslie is working with other Perkins colleagues around the state to take the Perkins Special Populations Guide and create a guide for each special populations category that has specific equity information and resources for that category. In addition to these guides, Leslie realized that there's a lack of centralized resources for non-traditional participation. And this year, she's working with colleagues to capture the various resources and house them all in one location for Perkins colleagues to use, which is going to be insanely helpful. Leslie, you are on the clock now. And we'll do questions at the end of the presentations.
Thank you, Patricia. I hope y'all aren't getting tired of me. When it comes to Perkins, I've kind of narrowed in on two very specific areas, Wickham being one of them, and then special populations. So please know, I am definitely not an expert. I'm just like all of y'all in the field, trying to make sure that I gather and I know who they are and I identify them, and then using my money as judiciously and wishing that there was more so that I can help all of them. For those of y'all that might be new, what I'm going to do this morning is give you a quick rundown on kind of the foundation on how we started this and then kind of where we're going. Next slide, please. All right, so just to give you some perspective, when Perkins 5 started, I remember reading in the law about how we were all going to be held accountable and we were going to have to show improvement and there was a specific word, I just lost it, improvement in our special population. So it started with, what are these individuals as far as what is each category mean? Okay, so we're going to kind of just start with foundation, and as you're going to go through, I want you to know that we've created some graphics that you are all welcome to use, and they're on the TACTI website. But as I was starting in this, we used the term special populations, and when it came to asking students to identify which special populations category they were, it was like, I don't want to be a special pop. What are you talking about a special population? So we ended up with one of my consultants saying, they're really students with unique or special circumstances. So we've kind of used that, and we created the graphics. All of the graphics that we created are kind of designed to, what are some of the things that are unique to them, but then also what is kind of that promoting the success, promoting the be a shining star, promoting being a graduate. So let me give you the foundation stuff really, really quick. I'm going to roll through these slides pretty quick because this guide is already published and on the TACTI website, but then that'll help you see kind of where we went to the next level. Next slide, please. So each one, of course, has their own unique graphic, and then we went and found what is the definition. So if you're new to Perkins and new to the special populations, also students with unique or special circumstances, all of these have individual guides. Now, on the foundation, please know I just gave you the definition, but along with it on this presentation is just the definition, but each in the guide in totality, there's some additional things to know or things to consider. So this is individuals with disabilities. Next slide, please. This is our individuals from economic disadvantaged families, including the low-income youth and adults. And you'll notice in here, there's actually two definitions for one of disadvantaged families and disadvantaged youth. Next slide, please. This is your individuals preparing for non-trad. Please know that each graphic, all of the words that were captured were actually words when we surveyed the field, and then we had a specific person that designed them into different word art for us. Next slide, please. We kept with the themes of graduation hats or shining stars, and so each one you can use individually if you're trying to capture those. This, of course, is your single parents, including single pregnant women. Next slide, please. When it came and got a little bit bigger, the out of workforce individuals, we included some of the specifics and different time periods that it had referred to a different act. So all of that is included in the different definitions. Next slide, please. This, of course, is your English learners. It's interesting that we found that a lot of people, when it comes to English learners in Texas, want to limit that to just being Spanish speaking. However, I live next to Fort Hood, and I've definitely found out that there are a whole lot more individuals that when it comes to my category in my database, that I see other languages besides Spanish. Next slide, please. This is our homeless individuals. If you ever look at this definition, please know that there was some interesting debate, because as we looked at this definition, I know that some of y'all are going to look at number 2 and go, oh, I have a lot of people that would actually fit into that definition. We went back to the coordinating board and asked some clarifying conversations about this, but please know this all came directly from the McKinney Veto Act. These were not definitions that we created on our own or came up with on our own. Next slide, please. And of course, our youth who are in or who have aged out of the foster care system. And of course, This, of course, collectively, again, you can see we're kind of keeping with different themes of graduation hats or success stories, or success as far as shining stars. Next slide, please. And our last one, youth with a parent who's a member of the armed forces and is on active duty. Being in Texas and being next to Fort Hood, I have a lot of students that want to qualify into this based on their reservist status. And so all the definitions will help give you that clarity and that understanding of what are either the specifications or, unfortunately, in my circumstance, what I felt was maybe a limitation. I haven't really talked, and maybe I need to ask one day what will help this maybe be expanded further, or what is the reason for the limitation for not including reservist and some other things. But hopefully this all helps you. Next slide, please. Okay, so we had the original 9-category guide that includes your graphics, your definitions, and some supplemental information. So if you need the original guide that I just kind of rolled through really quick, we have a special site. So if you go to tacti.org, you don't have to write this down specifically. You can go down a little bit in the page, and at the middle of the page, you'll see Perkins. You'll see students with unique or special circumstances, a whole tab dedicated to that. And then we now also have a whole tab dedicated to non-traditional. So that will be the location and the housing place for all of it. Next slide, please. So the first guide, we got really great feedback, having the definition and kind of having the base. But then we realized, and I especially realized, okay, the definition helps me. I now have my database. I now know what I can collectively pull from what are applications. And then I have 3 very specific areas where I have to go out and seek additional information and basically find out from my students if they fit into those 3 categories. But when it came to pulling them in, and then especially helping my department chairs understand not only the definition, but now let's really look at them. What are barriers that they have? What are equity issues that we need to address on campus? So this is a little bit slower process because over a 2-year time period, each quarter, I am concentrating on one specific area, and we're doing almost, although the term deep dive is not really appropriate, but it's really a what is already the research? What is the information out there? And then what is the assessment of gathering some student voices of, I really need this when I come on your campus. Next slide, please. So goal 1 is, of course, the first group. You can see that, and please know at this point, we have a draft. We're doing some final things on individuals with disabilities, and I'm about to finish out the economically disadvantaged families, including low-income youth and families. And our next one will be non-traditional fields. So each guide will be its own guide. I'm going to give you basically a brief understanding and a brief look at where we are with them. Next slide, please. Okay, in the original priorities, we wanted to research, we wanted to identify, and we want to assess the ways to overcome the barriers. And then we wanted to include the student voice. I'm really glad on how it all arranged kind of from start to beginning on how it's listed, because starting with individuals with disabilities kind of helped us see how we want each guide to kind of be laid out. So as we developed the guide categories, we realized we wanted to keep the definitions so that you didn't have to be switching back and forth. So we kept the definition in there, and then immediately underneath we have equity considerations. Now please note, a lot of the equity considerations are the research that we're seeing. It's also the survey that we send out, but then along with it, it's also student voice. And we found that we are starting to see a lot of very, very specific, focused webinars or presentations that are also showing us and bringing out what are equity considerations. Along with it, we've started adding successful programs. Now, I'll show you in the next guide, and when I show you the guide here in a second, not all the programs are going to be community college programs, but maybe it's just an idea of something that you could implement or something that you can kind of use as a sounding board to go to whatever might be an implementation possibility at your institution. There are a lot of professional programs, whether it's consultants, whether it's research, professional organizations, that we wanted to make sure you had access to those links. And so we've embedded the graphic and we've embedded the website within each guide. And then we are pulling what's current literature and research that is being published. We have also found that sometimes there's additional resources and other links. So currently, this is what we are following as far as what we're including in each guide. I will admit to you, as we keep going through this, we might realize that in another category we've missed something. So we might go back and tweak as we go. So as we go, you'll probably see it in draft mode before we do final publications. Next slide, please. I will admit, this is going to probably be difficult for you to read, but please know, as soon as we get done here, I'm going to put a draft watermark on it. I just realized I probably should have turned off my chiming clock in my office. Sorry. I'm going to put a watermark on it, a draft watermark, and I'm going to publish it on the TACTI website because I know I don't want to kind of hold this close. I want to make sure that I get it out as we go. So that being said, I want you to know that the students with each one kind of will have the similar look, but at the very top, you'll know that this is the individuals with disabilities. So again, we kept the definition, and although you can't read it, I'll help you really quick. One of the primary equity considerations that we have found when it comes to student with disabilities is when they're in the secondary and they are going through and having very specific time periods where they meet and they go over their accommodations and they have this, that doesn't transition over. And then all of a sudden at higher ed, we do it completely different. So hopefully all of these equity considerations will be things that you can look at. I know from my perspective, the equity considerations are things that I really need to not just hold into me, but they're things that I need to pass down to my faculty. So not only is the original guide been passed down to my faculty, but when we're publishing these, I'm sending out these equity considerations, not only to my faculty, but in my case, my director of accommodations. So hopefully it's helping the faculty, instead of just receiving that accommodation and going this, when they have that student with disability that they now know about in their class, that they're connecting the accommodations, knowing that that is one of the students that's considered a special population student, and then what they need to do additionally to eliminate barriers for those students. Next slide, please. As I was alluding to you earlier, Texas A&M has an Aggie Achieve program that is talking about a comprehensive transition. And so this was just really a high quality program that we wanted to include in there. We include just kind of some base information so that if necessary, you could reach out or you could go get more information if you want to pull that in. I was really excited to realize that there were a lot of organizations that are very specific for helping community college students with disabilities. So not only do we include you their graphic information, on this one we included the website, but we're also embedding it where you can just click on it and it'll link on it. You'll see that there's current literature and research. I am not following any specific APA or MLA. What I've done is just simplistically given you the name of it, who it's by and what the date is, and then the link to it. Now, that being said, I will tell you, y'all, we've already found that sometimes the links get broken. So I'll encourage you that if you find anything that's broken on this, I would really appreciate an email so that I can go and fix it and it doesn't frustrate anybody. So in this instance, we have the current literature and research, and you can see that there's quite a few that have done some research and done some publications on ways to help. But then along with it, there's a whole lot of other things that we want to make sure that, especially if somebody's new coming into this, or if you're just really ready to take and put this at the next level or provide information to your other people, there's a lot of other resources specific to students with disabilities. We found mental health resources. We found eating disorders. We found collectively a whole laundry list of things because I know that I was guilty of thinking, oh, this is only going to be my students that have accommodations. But it's not limited to accommodations. It's collectively far more. So we wanted to holistically provide all those other things, which might be resources, and a place that's one source for you so that you don't have to go massively looking and trying to figure it out yourself. Next slide, please. To give you a closer kind of in-house view, I wanted you to know that when it comes to the equity considerations, y'all, the first was kind of the very big view as we went through, but this can give you an ability to read it. Again, as I said at the beginning, I'm not an expert on this, and the individuals that are helping me, we will all admit that we are just like you. We are walking these steps, and we want to walk these steps together. So if there's an equity consideration that you feel was missed, I encourage you, please reach out to me and please let us know, because we want to make sure that collectively we have it all together. And so you can see from the beginning that there's only really 5 that we found so far. But we're also trying to make them very succinct and to the point, not only to help you, but hopefully help your disabilities department. But then again, like I said, passing something down to all the individual CTE faculty that are working with these students. I still am in the classroom, and I will tell you, I've already implemented some of this because I was guilty. I was very guilty, y'all, of going, okay, here's an accommodation. Here's what I need to do. I'm now meeting with that student individually with their accommodation and say, okay, here's what the accommodation is telling me. Is there anything else I need to know? With, of course, equity considerations in consideration. Y'all, I was amazed. I should have been doing this a long time ago. And I will admit, I don't know why I wasn't doing it a long time ago. The accommodation is just a black and white piece of paper. It's not giving me the rest of the information on what I need to do and what I can do to assist that student and help them be successful in my class. So again, I am using that as just conversations with my faculty, and then I am doing it myself as a faculty member and finding out what's above and beyond than just this definition and this black and white email of this student needs these accommodations. When it came to successful programs, I wanted to kind of open this up so that you could see it a little bit. Texas A&M in their Achieve program, I actually have a student, and one of my girls graduated with a young man that is in the middle of this program, and he cannot say enough about how it was inclusive and how much the immersion helped him. It made him feel a part. It made him feel connected to the campus. And then he actually is in the middle of his internship opportunity. So he's actually come back home, and his internship opportunity is with the school district where he wants to serve. I already alluded to you that we'll provide the necessary links for you so that you can just click on it. You don't have to go digging for yourself. If any of the links are broken and you have any problems, please email me and let me know. And then again, the consultants and the resources, this is what we found in all of our research. But again, y'all, if we've missed something, or if you know a successful program that also should be included, or a consultation that should be included, let us know. We always want to add so that we have a collective holistic document that really fits the state in totality. Next slide, please. I didn't do this by myself. I've had a lot of people over the years that have been willing to help me. I know some of y'all even online in the past have helped me on different projects, and y'all have had to step away, and y'all have got other things. So please know I greatly appreciate all of y'all, and I'm really thankful that I have a group of people and y'all are willing to put up with me and listen to me again. Next slide. Don't hesitate. Reach out to me. Let me know what I can fix. Let me know what I can do different. Let me know if I've done something wrong and it's not appropriate on my guide. And I'm always open to feedback, criticism, and ways that we can improve this, because it's not just for me, but I want to make sure that I have a document that not only helps our current Perkins Basic Grant directors and contacts, but y'all, that generation that's coming up underneath us that will need it. Because guess what? I suspect y'all are a little bit like me, and the retirement countdown has started. And so I want to make sure that the person that I hand this grant off to at Temple College has all of this. And I want to make sure that we help the coordinating board and everybody else, because I don't think special populations is going away. And definitely, I don't think Perkins 5 is going to change, at least not the next couple of years. So I hope you enjoyed this presentation. Again, it'll get updated so you can go straight to the TACTI website and get a hold of anything. And I look forward to the emails on what I need to change or adjust accordingly. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you, Leslie. I know I can speak for myself at least and say that helping you create these guides has been incredibly helpful with me as fairly new to the Perkins game, understand these populations a lot better and how to better serve them at our institution. So you're doing good work.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we're going to transition to Austin Community College and their middle school pathways leadership grant. Happy to introduce Natalia Almanza. I hope I'm saying that right. Awesome. She's the manager for career programs with Austin Community College, college and high school relations department. She has a bachelor's degree in family and consumer sciences from Texas State and a master's degree in college student development from St. Edward University. And her experience with ACC spans over 10 years in various departments. Natalia specializes in helping students graduate high school with a level 1 certificate or associate of applied science degree while in high school in an in-demand workforce area. She creates partnerships with local industry and community members to provide internships, mentorships, and job readiness skills to students for success after graduation. Natalia is inspired by her coworkers who work tirelessly to provide excellent service to students and families in Central Texas and the surrounding communities. When she has free time, which I know we all have so much free time, she likes to watch cartoons with her children and eat barbecue with her husband. Natalia, whenever you are ready.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for allowing me to be here with you all today. As she said, I'm Natalia Manaza, the manager for career programs, Austin Community College. I have enjoyed hearing and learning all about the opportunities students have from all of you these last 2 days. So we'll get ready to go. So next slide, please. So as I've heard in the presentations yesterday, a lot of them touched on the importance of certifications and work-based learning in many areas of CTE. As the manager of career programs, I oversee PTech and career academies in which high school students have the opportunity to graduate with a level 1 certificate or associate degree. The purpose of this grant was to build bridges and inform middle school students and their families of the opportunities available in high school, whether dual credit, ECHS, PTech, and career academies. What I have learned from students and families, it's important for them to be prepared before they take on these classes, as they do take time from their schedules. Students who choose to do PTech and career academies need to allot additional time in their junior and senior year for internships and clinicals so they can experience working in the industry. This was an important factor for me in writing this grant, as I knew I wanted to go younger to educate the students so they could be better prepared when they choose their endorsement and CTE pathway in high school. The plan didn't go according to plan, and we had a few challenges, which I will speak to in a few, but we are pivoting and realizing my big thinking can start with smaller steps. So next slide, please. So this is my optimistic slide, because as my director guided me in staying optimistic, I will say over the past year and a half, I had to start looking at my hiring issues as a sign of maybe I need not to hire right now. I have never had as many challenges with hiring as I've had in this position. I joke that I could possibly work for HR part-time. I may not have mastered their new Workday system, but I probably may have a new bestie in HR. But it's okay. It has really helped me to see the challenges as opportunities. From when we were granted this position, we had the challenge of transitioning to a new system, one, and then we endured a brief hiring freeze, two. And we were also coming out of COVID, and many still wanted to work from home. But with this position, I wanted someone who would go out and be doing events, talking to families, outreaching to the students. ACC had not finalized their hybrid working policy, and that was a big question in many of our interviews. People wanted to know, like, what would they be able to do, what would they wouldn't be able to do. So it was something that came up often. I had posted the position 3 times and I was rejected 5 times. So it was something that was really difficult, a huge like hump, if you will. I hired an hourly to help me throughout the whole hiring. And she did great. She was a really great help while I was going through, but even she left me to continue her education, because who would do that? But we of course encouraged her, and have yet to hire another hourly. So my big thinking made me reevaluate and say, did I swallow an elephant? And and made me reevaluate and review my my grant. I kind of also did think for a minute there, I was like, hey, do you think I can maybe like just put this added on duties to my current full-time coordinators? And then I was very lucky that my coordinators did not leave me because I didn't want to hire for them as well. So we reviewed the grant and we decided we would focus on one area that we can make a big impact on. So we moved forward and we thought, where could we do something big? So next slide, please. So we did summer camps. That was our big collaboration. Regardless of having one full-time coordinator, we decided summer camp would be something that could really bring them here. We thought, hey, if we can't get to the high school, we can't get to the campuses, let's bring them to our campus. So I utilized the full-time coordinators and we created our own curriculum. We hosted 5 one-week camps focused on health science, manufacturing, and IT, information technology. These areas were selected due to the high workforce demand and an area of interest with my local district partners. We created a Google registration form, marketed to our local districts, and created the flyers in English and Spanish. Our enrollment goal was for each camp was 20 students, 100 altogether, and we met 100% each week, except for the final week with our health science, which we figured was mostly because parents were getting ready for travel because it was the last week of June. The number of completions is a different story, but I would like to preface that with this also happened right after the Uvalde shooting. Again, opportunities and not challenges. We had many concerned parents, as we should, and many who didn't feel comfortable maybe allowing their students to come to a campus. We took this as an opportunity to help parents understand that the college campus can be very safe and that we would have all the policies and procedures in place for them. But most parents still understood the parents didn't still feel as comfortable. So we went and we did our wait list. Some parents had already committed to other camps, but it was okay. We felt comfortable with what we had. So our first week, our completion ratio for our IT camp was 80%. Our health sciences was 55%. Our manufacturing was 70%. Our second week with the IT was 80%, and our health science was 56%. So our total enrollment was 96, with 41 females and 55 males. And our population served was 70% with free and reduced lunch. Next slide, please. Oh, wait, I think we missed a slide. Can you go back one up? Oh, wait. I think we might, can you go down one slide? I think mine, one more. I think my slide may have been, okay, there it is, sorry. I think somehow my slides messed up somehow. So for this slide, we took the curriculum we created and we broke it down into daily activities with guest speakers and presenters. Our goal was to give the students the opportunity to experience each area of interest and be able to ask the speakers and have the students be able to ask the speakers and the presenters what the jobs were like and what they could do and what brought them to those areas of the jobs that they were in. We really wanted our students to understand that those areas were more than they thought they were, especially like in health science. We didn't want them to go in there thinking health science was just nursing or being a doctor. We really wanted them to see everything there was to health sciences. Like they could actually be in health science and never even touch a patient. We wanted them to see IT not just as computers, like they could do coding and be in photography. They could do coding and be in health sciences. And we really wanted them to understand what manufacturing is because a lot of them didn't even know what manufacturing was. We wanted them to see the logistics. We wanted them to see the robotics of it and even see that even how automotive and HVAC played into manufacturing as well. So they got to see all of it as it is. We tied in the career readiness activities so they can see the professional skills needed to be successful in these positions as they were learning them as well. Each week ended with a presentation from our career program coordinators speaking about our PTECs and our career academies. They would explain how these opportunities were in the high schools so that the students can fast track into these careers with a high demand industry. And I'm sorry, can you go back up one slide and one more? There you go. So these are pictures from our IT camp, as this was the only camp that had a photo waiver. In my whirlwind adventure of planning this camp, I did not get photo waivers, but Co-Stream Studios, who came and did our opening for our IT camp, did do photo waivers. Trust me, I will have them this year because I will have thousands of pictures, but they took pictures for us. And so we were very thankful that they did. But we did partner with Co-Stream Studios, who actually work with IBM PTEX, and they are amazing. They are stationed out of Dallas, and they have come up, and their mission is to educate students on coding, and they do it in a great and fun and engaging way. They really do teach students how critical it is to be competitive in coding. And so it was amazing that they came and they actually worked with students on building coding, what it's like in the workforce of coding, and how to market yourself in coding too. So it was a great opening act for them when they were able to get on the keyboard and just learn the whole world of coding the first day. So it was a great opening for them. And if you can go back up one more or down one more. There, thank you. Sorry. So when hiring for this camp, it was very important, at least especially for me, that we hired teachers, as we wanted trained professionals who could pivot when needed and have the skills to manage students. We hired 3 teachers and 4 teacher aides. I utilized my full-time coordinators as camp supervisors to assist with the camps, and teachers as needed to oversee the daily operations. We had the teachers create a syllabus for the students so they could, so they would be able to learn what a syllabus is. They had the learning objectives of the camp. They had the teacher's contact information and a schedule of the weekly events, like, the tentative events, the classroom expectations, and it would give them the opportunity to see a glimpse of what it's like to be on a college campus. We had them do team building activities and opportunities of them to see the opportunities of them learning in a fun and exciting ways. Okay. And next slide. Yeah, yes, thank you. In the final few months of this grant, I would definitely like to request a continuation to keep continuing to do summer camps that would inform students and families about the CTE pathways. I would also like to focus on hiring hourlies to assist with me in planning the year-long recruitment interests. And I would definitely want to collaborate with other colleges statewide to find best practices to build these pathways from middle school to high school to college and career, especially after learning all about all the other programs the other colleges are doing. I would also like to see what I can do in smaller groups of students, maybe focus on a cohort from one after the summer camps and utilize their experiences to build other recruitment strategies, areas of interest, create stronger connections and stronger pathways. I'm also working to build on my connections with Exploring to help stay connected with these students year round as they do career and STEM focused field trips. And finally, connecting with Upward Bound once these students have moved to high school, as they are a great college college readiness program, and have them be successful once they enter into our programs, and help them with the enrollment process as well. And that is it. Thank you.
Thank you, Natalia. So we are moving right along. And in the interest of time, I don't think Dr. Keeling-Olsen needs a third introduction during these panels, but she will talk about her additional Perkins Leadership Grant that goes over non-traditional participation resources for improvement. Here she is.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So my non-trad participation went down and I panicked, which was, I was surprising that it went down. And so it came back to, all right, let's see where we're going, what's going on. And so I actually went to go find the website called Texas Genuine and see, okay, what maybe I could capture or what I could do and provide for my marketing department. And so as I was doing that research, and also since non-trad was one of the special pops, I double checked first, but we weren't utilizing the non-trad grant. And so I put in for it because it kind of made sense and it went hand in hand. So let me kind of tell you where we are and what we've got going on. Next slide, please. I was almost positive that there was a lot of other institutions that were probably doing it far better than I was. I was very guilty, y'all. I am non-trad. I'm criminal justice. So I understood non-trad. It made sense to me. And I understand and can really definitely speak towards why non-trad is so important. So when I was assessing this and realizing that I needed some help with resources and was having difficulty, that we needed to kind of assess what resources were already out there. And so we did in a survey at the beginning of this grant. And then we also knew, or I knew, that I have dental hygiene on my campus. And so notoriously, that was always going to be an area that struggled along with child development. So I am lucky, but also probably unlucky in the fact that I live next to a major hospital. So healthcare is definitely a major focus of our CTE. And then we have also business and careers. But I know my other institutions, when y'all start talking about agriculture and machining and a lot of the other SIP areas, that I didn't know what resources you are. So we knew we needed to, I felt like we needed to evaluate what all is out there and what resources and what areas do we have that just really, they don't have any resources at all. And then along with it, what are the organizations that are dedicated? There's definitely a women in law enforcement organization that works with, and they collectively help build up. And so providing that in our list of resources was kind of also as we're doing this, we want to make sure we capture that. So that was kind of the original goals. And so let me show you where we are. Next slide, please. So I was surprised. I kind of sometimes think, well, maybe it's just I'm struggling here and I'm not seeing things, or maybe I don't have the resources. But when we started assessing what resources we found out that there were really minimum resources as far as, okay, if you're new to Perkins and you need help increasing your non-trad participation, okay, what can I find or what's out there? And so we realized that every person or every even marketing department might just be trying to collectively put it together on their own. We also realized that there were lost resources, but they aren't completely lost. Through this, I work with an individual called Two Right Brains, and then also with a web designer called Einstein Eyes. And so they have some unique and interesting ways to actually go find resources that are no longer. So like I alluded to, Texas Genuine, the website is no longer available, but they were able to go in and capture some of what used to be on Texas Genuine. Now, I will admit, y'all, I remember Texas Genuine, but I don't remember everything that they had. So it's still kind of an ongoing thing as we try to capture what were previously lost resources or things that we need. The other thing that I kind of found out, that a lot of our resources are very image specific. So if I'm having trouble with dental hygiene or child development, that I would always just go and make a brochure that was very specific to that area. I never probably did what is a holistic non-trad for all of CTE marketing campaign. And so I realized that as we did the survey, I kind of thought there's bound to be some really astute marketing people that have done a holistic gold, but we never found what was like a major, massive, non-trad campaign. That being said, not everybody took the survey. So if what I am saying is erroneous and you have a non-trad major campaign about that's not CTE specific, but just non-trad in general for your campus, please share with me. We would love to have it, and we'd love to include it as available possibilities. We did find an old campaign, but it's interesting because the old campaign, actually, I found out that it's actually kind of reviving itself, but it's very specific for one CTE program. Next slide, please. So as we were evaluating on goal 2, what resources were out there, we found out that we have a lot of areas that don't have representation. Now, when I say representation, y'all, I want to say that cautiously. It's difficult to find whether it's stock photos or whether it's classroom images. And so we're kind of working on collectively finding that. When I've presented with dental hygiene on the past, y'all, even if you Google males in dental hygiene, you end up with the male dentist. You don't really end up with finding even images of a male hygienist. And so we kind of collectively started realizing, okay, let's capture everything that's out there. So now, mind you, I will admit, it's very dependent upon you, and it's also very dependent upon your marketing and even your administration, what image they want to show. My institution likes to show the students that are hands-on doing things, whereas there's other individuals that they definitely prefer the marketing. So you'll see a lot of what is stock images on the website when we launch it. And then there's also going to be what are very specific student images in classrooms. So I also, again, will tell you, still should have turned off that clock. I will also tell you that if you have specific student images that you're willing to share, we'll definitely take them, and we want to make sure that we load them on the website. Next slide, please. This is not my idea. This completely belongs to Two Right Brains, who saw it. And then after I took it to the group and my grant partners, we realized, it doesn't have to be difficult. It can just be a very simplistic message. We ended up finding this. This is actually a very, very old, well, I say very old, 2018 or 2016, there was a small mini webinar. And I think it was up in the Northeast a little bit, but they did the webinar, and their whole concept on the webinar was "Why Not Me?" And this was their advertising from their webinar. So we've reached out to them, and then as we were talking as grants, we thought, okay, for women, we could do "Why Not Me?" And then for men, "Why Not You?" So here's where we are. We are currently developing a marketing template. Now, I'm very guilty because I kept thinking, oh, well, we could do something that's all for engineering. But then I realized what I put together, you may immediately look at that and go, that doesn't help me at all. So we realized that every institution is going to want a template where they could build it their own. So ultimately, we're in the process of building 2 templates. So you could pick the "Why Not Me" template, and then you could pick what programs you want to include in your "Why Not Me." We'll also leave a space where you could add some additional information, whether it's your college logo, whether it's, contact this person or things like this. So there'll be 2 templates that we're working on. Again, all loaded on the TACTI website. And I will digress real quick and tell you, we're sending it to TACTI because TACTI will continue on when I'm retired one day. So we want to make sure that we're housing it in a place where there's possibilities and we don't run into problems of losing stuff in the future. So as we build this template, again, we also are going to have the consultant available to you. So if you need help and the template needs to be maybe a different image, or you want an image that doesn't fit into the template. So I see this template as kind of being a good starting place, but then also, you can design it, or you can contact us and say, I need it tweaked, I need it evaluated, I need it a little bit different. So anyways, I hope you're excited about the launch of templates to use for you to build your own marketing campaigns. And of course, share with your marketing department if you need to go through them or if you need them to design it or work with it. Next slide, please.
Just a reminder, you have 5 minutes left.
Thanks, Dwayne. So we also wanted to make sure that we captured everything for you because we want one centralized location. We want centralized location for images. We want the centralized location for what is the template. But then along with it, we wanted a centralized research location for you. So I now have a very large spreadsheet that includes all the different areas that are addressed in Texas. And so in that spreadsheet, we are making notes. And so there's women in cybersecurity. There's, of course, the American Association of Men in Nursing. The small one is, Male Cosmetology Association, and then Women in Construction. There's a whole lot that I didn't realize it's out there. So these also will be on that spreadsheet where you can just open the spreadsheet and then you can go find your SIP area and see if we were able to capture any national or professional organizations that could be resources for you or could be helpful information or even connections for your students. Next slide, please. So when you go on the TACTI website, you will see, if you go down to the middle, you'll see, of course, like I said, Perkins, you'll see students with unique or special circumstances. And now they've created a non-traditionals, genders, and CTE, a link that's all itself. When you click on that link, it'll then open up. And so these are all going to be the male non-trad resources, female non-trad resources, and the non-trad participation marketing. And we'll continue to add that spreadsheet and other things. So it'll be in one centralized location. And again, this is in progress. So it's just, it's out there as a holding place, but right now we have not loaded images because we're still in the process of capturing and archiving all images. Next slide, please. There's my contact information. Any image that you have that you want to include, I greatly appreciate it. Any ideas that you have, any corrections I need to make, feedback, I always appreciate it because you definitely are the users. And so your critical assessment of what we're doing will just help me improve it for everybody. Thanks to the people that helped me. We've done lots of research and we've done lots of digging, and we found that the student pictures are really, really great. And so we want to make sure that we capture as many of them. So please let us know what we can do for you. Thanks again for letting me show you where we are and what we're doing.
Thank you again, Leslie. You are doing the Lord's work for Special Pops for sure. We now have a few minutes here for any questions for our panelists. You can drop them there in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. But I do have a couple of questions. So Leslie, they'll be able to, for the non-traditional specifically, they'll be able to develop their own template using our materials, correct?
Yep, they're working with the webmaster right now, and the Two Right Brains is working on what will be almost an embedded program on TACTI. And so with that embedded program, it'll have the Why Not Me? And then if you have 5 CTE programs, you can pull what images you want over into, and it's basically a build yourself from the images and from the template. Now, that being said, John Wagner is the owner of Two Right Brains, and he's definitely willing to help on people if something doesn't fit, because we realize it might be a little bit of a trial and error process to fine tune that so it's usable for everybody.
Will there be any limitations on the templates used?
Right now, it'll be limitation wise, it'll be what we have in the system. So, cause like John won't be able to load something, but again, John will kind of work with us and we'll kind of grow so that we can have it where it's kind of going to be, we won't know what's wrong until we start using it and people telling us, well, I really need it this way. And then we can modify it accordingly.
Right. And all of this, the Special Pops and the non-trad stuff is all going to be on the TACTI website, right?
Yes.
Excellent.
I'm currently a TACTI board member, and so guess what? I have website access, so I can load and change and correct. So not only is the webmaster helping us when we need to load more difficult things like templates, but then other things I can load. So that being said, if any of y'all have leadership things or information that needs to be posted under Perkins or anything like that, we can definitely help you get that.
I was like, and there's plans in place for when you retire for somebody to take it over, correct?
That's why we put it on TACTI, because the TACTI board in itself includes, of course, your CTE professionals and different Perkins people. So, one of these days when I'm gone, TACTI doesn't go away. So that's why TACTI has been very willing and very helpful in helping us, get that Perkins piece put there so that it can kind of be that ongoing. Mindy may want to unmute and tell you there's also, it's easier for TACTI to sometimes post things because the coordinating board has to go through a lot of specifics to get things on their website. So we also wanted it to be something that provided a little bit ease of communication or posting of things for the coordinating board where they could utilize us. The simple answer to your question is yes, TACTI doesn't go away even one of these days when I'm not around.
And Leslie, thank you for giving me an opening because I'll be happy to jump in here and tell you how very much the Workforce Education Division at the Higher Education Coordinating Board appreciates its partnership with the Texas Association for Career and Technical Educators, TACTI, particularly in the area of Perkins. I can tell you that TACTI has been critical to both the success of our dissemination of materials over time and in kind of pulling together a state Perkins community. Years ago, I began calling Leslie's efforts to make this happen Perkins for the people. We do enjoy a sense of community and a sense of joint mission through TACTI's outreach on behalf of Perkins. Now, as to the posting of materials on the TACTI website, we do proceed at this a little more slowly and laboriously at the coordinating board because we maintain a state agency website with its numerous security protocols and information posting protocols that make it not so easy for us to just pop areas up. We do post, but ultimately it is very helpful to us through this good working relationship with TACTI to be able to throw it out there and say, there it is, for TACTI to say, here it is on behalf of Perkins for the state, that we have this available. This has been particularly helpful with CLNA materials. Leslie, what else have we put out there?
The webinars and the orientation is out there. In fact, last year's orientation is still out there. So as soon as you'll post and do a new orientation, and we've also posted these leadership presentations.
Yes. Okay. So I'll just dive in here and reinforce that. And let me take this opportunity again to thank our TACTI partners and to thank Leslie in particular, who is the author of a great body of good Perkins for the People work in the state of Texas through her association with TACTI and her activeness in Perkins grant making.
Mindy, I'd also, since you opened that up, I'd like to encourage everybody. There's a TACTI pre-conference. I know Mindy sent it out for me and it's also on the website, but the Special Populations Grant, NAEP is coming down and doing a very, very specific equity and leading in equity, all focused on special populations. So if you haven't seen that pre-conference, I highly encourage you, and I really hope to see all of y'all there at TACTI and specifically that pre-conference.
I don't see any questions in the Q&A section, but Natalia, you want to come back on for just 1 second? I do have a quick question about your Pathways events. So as the parent of two 12 to 14-year-olds, your target demographic for this project, I was wondering if you get any pushback from kids this age who are not maybe necessarily ready to plan their future. We're dealing with that at this very moment with my daughter planning her high school schedule. And her mantra is, I just want to be a kid. I don't want to think about my career at 14. So do you think that these camps maybe help remove that apprehensiveness?
What? Kids fighting me? Never. No, of course not. No, yes, definitely. We understand that students definitely don't want to be planning their future right now. Because it's, it is something that definitely they don't want to think about. They want to be kids, and we want to respect that as well. That's also why we make these camps fun for them, and we don't want to pressure them about choosing a career, but we want to enlighten them about the opportunities available, and we want to make sure that they at least have their eyes opened about it. Like, so they don't think that when they think of health sciences, it's only nursing and it doesn't close them off. Or when they see, IT and think, oh, it's just going to be computers. That's definitely not something that I'm going to do ever in my life. No, look at what computers has to offer. So if it is of interest to you and you're on your phone all day, that you can make a career out of that, just so you know. Or if they think about like drones and like, oh my God, drones are the most amazing thing in the world, you actually have the skills to do drones. And yes, you could make that a job. If you love droning, let's make that into your career then. It's just turning it into something that they didn't think of, and like just putting the bug in the ear now. That's our biggest thing. Like, let's just put the bug in the ear. Let's like give you something to think about, and then go back to being a kid, because that is definitely something. I'm very fortunate that my kid already has told me, my son, he's 10, and he already tells me every day that I'm going to be an engineer. Like, he tells me he wants to be an inventor. It's an engineer pathway. And so I get to like put that bug every day in his ear. I'm not forcing it. I'm not, laying the path. I am laying the path because I'm fortunate to be in this job, but I'm not forcing it on him. It's every day just, okay, well, hey, math, hey, science, here you go. Just making sure he has what he needs to keep going that way. But we do hope that these camps will continue to make it more fun and more interesting. And so that way, when they are in that 8th grade, choosing those endorsements, they remember these things that we have told them, and they remember these opportunities, that when they're looking at these endorsements and saying, health sciences, that's public service, that's what I'm going to choose, because when they were talking about it, yes, that's the pathway I want to go into. So when they are in high school and they're taking these classes and they're doing these things, they're like, yes. Because I remember when I was learning this, when I talked to the presentation that she did when she was showing me about sonography, that is exactly where I want to go. And that's the other part. We want them to know that when they are doing these things, that if they learn from the presenter, when my faculty was talking to them during the summer camp, they had said, oh, I want to be a nurse all my life. And then they go in there and they see something, they're like, that is not what I want to do all my life. Mm-hmm. It turns them to another pathway of saying, like, like maybe that's not what you want to do, or it does teach them that, hey, health science is what you want to do, but maybe that wasn't the pathway. But let's let you to know you don't have to touch a patient ever in your life, but you could be in medical this way, doing the administrative side. So it's just, again, putting the bug in the ear and helping them see the different areas that they can learn from.
Hi, Patricia. We do have a question in the chat, and this comes from Ms. Martin. Basically, she wants to know to Natalia, are you open to connecting with schools who are interested in starting a similar program? So is there a collaboration effort?
Oh, definitely I am. Yes, by all means, please please take my contact information. I really hope to keep expanding this. Right now, we were very small, only 100 students, but we have talked to the Texas Workforce Commission. We're looking to work with E3 Alliance. We're really wanting to grow it, because we feel that the more districts we are able to work with, the more we are able to keep expanding out, because our PTECs and our career academies go to all of our districts. We work with Elgin, we work with Maynard, we work with AISD, Round Rock, and even with Hayes. And so we would love to keep expanding it out. And the more that we're able to expand out, the more these middle school students will have the knowledge of what's available for them and put them into these CTE pathways of knowing what's available to them.
Okay, thank you. At this time, we have no further questions in the chat. I'm going to turn it over to Mindy or Tanisha.
Thank you guys first of all, thank you, Patricia, for moderating this session. Thank you, Leslie and Natalia, for your state leadership presentations. It is currently 10:04. We're going to take a 10-minute break and reconvene with our panel two presentations. So see you at 10:15. Welcome back. Now let's prepare for our panel 2 presentations. Our panel 2 presentations consist of our Perkins Equity Access and Opportunity Program, other known as PEOP. Our very own Mindy Nobles will serve as the moderator. No need for introductions, Mindy Nobles.
Good morning again, everyone. I'm so very glad again to be here with you this morning. I'm particularly glad to be able to moderate this panel. It's, of course, our new PEOP grant program initial awardees. I will not linger over introductions to this section, except to say that this new grant program at the coordinating board comes with high hopes in that we have dived into perhaps the most challenging aspect of community college education, which is finding ways to increase the success rates of those students who are most challenged to succeed, and yet they walk through the door of a community college hoping for that success and the difference it can make in their lives. So I will go ahead and get us started with our first presentation. It will be Austin Community College holding one of our 4 PEOP grants for FY23. I'll introduce Angelica Cancino de Sandoval, who is this project's director, and we will hear Angelica present on ACC's project. Angelica Cancino de Sandoval is Director of Special Supports at Austin Community College. She oversees the Student Advocacy Center, Student Emergency Fund, Foster Care Alumni Program, Be Safe Program, and the soon to open Student Care Center across the 11 campuses. Angelica, do you have any spare time? Oh, wait, I forgot. You work for a community college. Never mind. Angelica has worked for ACC for 14 years. Prior to being a director, she worked in direct practice with students as a student advocate for 7 years. She has a master's degree in counseling from St. Edward's University and a bachelor's in communication studies from UT Austin. Angelica has worked to develop programs and services to help remove barriers to student success and improve equitable access to higher education. Angelica, the floor is yours.
Good morning. Thank you so much, Mindy, and everyone for being here to hear about all these great programs and these, the ways in which we're all using our money so wisely to affect students and their journeys to higher education. So our program is called Paving Pathways to Equitable Future. And again, my name is Angelica Cancino de Sandoval. Next slide. Today, I'm just going to go over a quick overview of the grant project, some of our goals. We're going to talk I'm just going to do a little bit about the evidence tier that we selected and why, and then what our hoped outcomes are, and then our current progress as we are about 5 months into the grant at this point. Next slide. So why did we apply for this grant? We hope to, through the grant, expand and refine ACC's existing equity efforts by increasing outreach to CTE and potential CTE students and increasing capacity to provide support for eligible CTE students. I think we looked at this grant because we know we were doing good work, utilizing the Perkins Basic Grant, of course, and other avenues in supporting our students. But there were certain programs that we had reached capacity in terms of in how we could support them or how we could do outreach. Like we were just at our limits. And so this gave us an opportunity to look at that and to think about what it would look like to expand and to see what we would need to do that. And so that's what we are utilizing this grant for mainly. Next slide. So we are leveraging 2 established ACC programs. One is a Student Advocacy Center, which I've worked for the past 14 years. The Student Advocacy and over the past 14 years, I could say that it has expanded and intensified and become a more robust case management program. But it is a case management program that provides advising, coaching, social support, as well as financial assistance for childcare and access to textbooks for economically disadvantaged students and students who are formerly in foster care. So we do specialize basically in parenting students and economically disadvantaged students and youth who are or students who are formerly in foster care. We also provide services and support for basic needs for all students across the colleges. And so that's kind of through our student care center model. We do services and events and programming to help support all students who are encountering financial or issues in the college while they're at ACC. But in general, that's the case management program is what we wanted to expand on. The other program is our adult career scholars program. So ACC worked with Texas Workforce Commission and Austin Chamber of Commerce to identify fields where there are critical skills gaps in our local workforce. The mission of the Career Scholars Program is to fill those gaps by fostering student success and developing career-ready students in those areas through internships, mentorships, job-specific programming. This experiential learning model helps students apply what they learn in the classroom to real work environment. So what we're doing is we're taking these 2 programs and we're making them into one. We realized that both programs did well on their own, and both programs were at capacity. So both programs are expanding through this grant. We are hiring 2 individuals that one works for one program, the other works for one works for Student Advocacy Center, one works for the Adult Career Scholars, and they're going to combine their efforts to really provide a very complete wraparound in terms of career, social supports, scholarships, all of those things that the 2 programs we're doing separately. This grant will, and this particular cohort of students will receive really all of it, which is going to be something that we've never done before. We've had students that maybe touched both programs in the past, but nothing where we combine the efforts of the 2 existing programs. The combined effort is going to give us the ability to expand our outreach, to expand into adult education, continuing education, and CTE programs. So right now we have separate collaborations with these programs, but I think with the combined effort, we hope to expand that in a better and more complete way. As you all know, as you know, being part of colleges, sometimes you get stuck in your departments or your silos, and you are and this will help us reach across the aisle and make sure that we're doing the collaboration that will best benefit the students. We're expanding the existing case management support, including supporting coaching and mentoring and childcare scholarships as well through this equity grant. Next slide. As I said, the main goal is to increase our outreach capacity. Right now, every student advocate has a full caseload of 100 to 150 students. So they were at a point at which outreach wasn't an option. With the addition of an additional student advocate, as well as an adult career scholars coordinator, we are going to be able to just focus, those 2 will be able to just focus on outreaching to an additional 100 to 200 students. That outreach will go into, we've talked about doing a deep dive into the communities around the colleges, especially those in economically disadvantaged areas, as well as working more closely with our student accessibility services to try and do a more better outreach to students who are receiving accommodations. But as I was listening to Leslie, thinking also outside the box of just not just students who are receiving accommodations, but maybe other students who have who are experiencing disabilities. So we're increasing the number of students who receive case managed support. Through case management, they receive academic advising and planning and personal support services, as well as access to childcare scholarship and other resources and supports. And I say other resources and supports because the student advocates all have the capability to connect to other resources. They are trained navigators with Health and Human Services, so they can assist students in completing the Your Texas Benefits application. They work with United Way and other community organizations to provide specific and in-time need for their students. And we work with several foster care, national foster care and state foster care organizations that can help our youth who are aging out of foster care get access to additional funding or emergency assistance. And then it's also going to improve the support for our adult career scholars. Right now, our adult career scholars is kind of put on the head of one person. And so this additional coordinator will help again in that outreach ability, but also to expand what they do in terms of collaborating with companies, organizations that assist in paying for those scholarships for those students. So that's going to, again, put more money in the hands of students who need it, who can't otherwise go to school without it. Next slide. So the question in the request for this was also to explain where our evidence tier was. We chose a high evidence program tier. We based it off of these two studies: Opening Doors, More Guidance, Better Results. That really goes into our Student Advocacy Center work. That study talks about how when you are able to provide case management and wraparound supports, students do better. And I think we intrinsically know that, but that study officially tells us. So the second study was the Paying for Persistence. This is one of the models that we used when they developed the Adult Career Scholars Program, was the idea that low-income students, low-income parents are only able to really go to college and complete and do better when there's a scholarship program or money that's backing them, that kind of guaranteed funds that are backing them to help them in a larger way than just financial aid, because we know financial aid can only really go so far. Next slide. Outcomes. The outcome is we're recruiting 100 more students for the Adult Career Scholars Program. And that's going to be improving access. Right now, for the past 3 years, Adult Career Scholars Program has been capped at 150 students. And we have not been able to increase that because of the lack of capacity that we had. And so this new Adult Career Scholar Coordinator will help build that capacity to increase and we'll be able to recruit 100 more students by fall.
Just to let you know, you have 5 more minutes.
Thank you. We also hope to provide robust support by case managing all 100 students through the Student Advocacy Center. And that's going to be focusing on the persisting and thriving. So we're not just going to be recruiting them and getting them into school, but we're going to help them go through and support them as they go through the program and their years at Austin Community College. We also, with the grant, will continue to be able to provide additional 25 more students with childcare scholarships. As you know, childcare has increased, especially after COVID. And so the childcare scholarships help us to better support students or parenting students so that they are able to attend. Next slide. Where we are right now, we are in the hiring process for the director position. It will be posted this week, I am told. And the Adult Career Scholar Coordinator has been posted, and the person will officially start on March 20th. The Student Advocate position has already been posted and filled. That person has already started and is in training. I will say that we did not wait for these positions to be filled to start the development of the recruitment plan. We've already met, we've talked to marketing and other stakeholders to think about different ways that we can be doing recruitment. Our Adult Career Scholars manager has also started working with Workforce Solutions to identify scholarship money for these additional 100 students. So we are moving forward without the positions being filled, but those will be filled hopefully in the near future. The director position will be posted hopefully this week, and then we'll start planning for a bigger rollout throughout the summer. Next slide. And that's it. I'm done.
I'm sorry, I'm both muted and off video. I apologize. Let me start again. Angelica, thank you for that overview of ACC's POP program. Before I go on to introduce Amarillo, I'm going to ask you if I might talk a little bit about an aspect of the POP program that could bear some further explanation. Angelica mentioned evidence tiers. Now, if you've watched the POP webinars presented to date, you'll be aware of these tiers. You're also aware of these tiers, of course, as POP recipients. Let me go ahead and just explain them in general for anyone who might not be familiar. The POP grant program follows the Texas evidence-based grant-making model, as most or all of you are aware. The model itself was the product of the state's participation in a national fellowship led by the organization Results for America. The fellowship, as part of Results for America's overall mission, the fellowship seeks to deploy workforce grant dollars for projects with a high likelihood of positive, durable impact on the population served, leading into the workforce. You might say the idea is do what works. Many grant dollars go for projects that flourish on an innovative idea or build on a previously small local program, and they do the good work while the funding continues, but then they evaporate, they're gone. And there's and moreover, there's no trackable outcome, no trackable durable impact that can be documented from these projects. The Results for America Fellowship seeks to break that mold and establish do what works projects that lead to durable impacts. Well, key to the project is building grant programs on evidence-based precedents or on innovative programs that are brand new, but whose likely durable impact is supported by available evidence. As part of doing that via the methodology for the evidence-based grant-making model, colleges select among 5 evidence tiers that are structured and available for them to choose from. The highest evidence tier, which is the one that ACC chose and successfully wrote a proposal to, requires that colleges build their proposals upon 2 previously successful programs that appear in one of 3 databases available through the Department of Labor and other sources. So ACC and other applicants went into these databases, found models of previous programs that were akin to what they had in mind, or that could serve as a basis for a general idea. And they wrote to those. These models, previous programs, served as models that were incorporated, adapted from, and ultimately molded into local program proposals. That's the highest tier. Requires 2 previously successful program models. The lowest tier only requires local evidence that an innovative idea has a likelihood for success if the program is awarded, based on the college's local experience and knowledge of its own needs and this extent to which it can document those. There are 3 evidence tiers in between that draw upon specified forms of evidence, ranging from the databases down to local program experience from previous programs. And so that's just a quick overview. We have previous webinars, past webinars available on our website. More information is available in detail in the POP RFA that is posted to the Workforce Education website. If you would like to reference that, you may. If you want to ask more questions about this during our Q&A, you may also do so. So just a quick overview of the evidence tiers that Angelica refers to, just in case some of you are not familiar. And with that, I'll go on to introduce our second POP grantee, Amarillo College. The Amarillo College project will be presented by Dr. Frank Sobey and Laura Geiger. I will introduce each of them in turn. First, Dr. Sobey. Dr. Sobey joined Amarillo College as a full-time instructor in the English department in 2005. Frank, go English. You come from the same discipline I do. Since then, he has served as the chair of the English department and as Dean of Arts and Sciences. He's currently the Associate Vice President of Academic Affairs. Frank loves Amarillo College and is immensely proud to work for a college so completely devoted to students and the Texas Panhandle. Laura Geiger. Laura Geiger began her journey at Amarillo College in 2019 as a student worker in the Office of the President, and eventually transitioned into a full-time position as an administrative clerk supporting the college president and vice president of strategic initiatives. During those years of offering support to at-risk students within projects initiated by the vice president for strategic initiatives, she discovered her passion for helping Amarillo College students achieve a positive, holistic experience. Currently, Laura is the Perkins Equity Success Coach and has a caseload of 301 single parents. Frank and Laura, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much for the introduction. I trust you can hear me just fine.
I think we can.
Okay, great. Well, happy almost Friday. If you hear any miscellaneous construction sounds, I apologize in advance. We're undergoing some construction right now. So early last spring, our Office of Institutional Research provided us with some data around our parent population, which revealed significant achievement gaps related to retention and completion. And when the POP RFA came out, it really gave us an opportunity to address our concerns. And so we wrote the grant focusing on single parents in career and technical education programs, utilizing a success coach model provided by Inside Track. And next slide, please. I want to begin by just painting a picture of who our parent population is. And the table on the left shows our student parent population. And on the right, just bulleted the overall population, which is inclusive of the parents. And what you'll notice immediately about our parent population is that they constitute nearly 25% of our overall student population, so definitely significant. They are much more likely to be part-time, less likely to be transfer focused, much more likely to be on Pell, much more likely to be first gen, female, minority, And I want you to pay special attention to the percentage of our student parent population, which is single at 60%. And then this population of parents is also much older than our overall student population at 31 years of age. Next slide, please. Next slide. Thank you. Thank you. So just very quickly, this is retention data for our FTIC cohort from 2018 through 2022, and this is just fall to spring. And you see in the trend lines there, we have student parent no, student parent yes, and student parent unknown, and then the count and the percentage on the right-hand side in that table. And our parent population, this is overall, not disaggregated by single parent, retained from fall to spring at a rate of 64.79%, as compared to our non-student population, which retained from fall to spring at a rate of 76.46%. If you were to look at our fall to fall retention, you also see a disparity between parents and non-parents. Parents retain from fall to fall at a rate of 47% compared to 58% for non-parents. Next slide, please. Thank you. So the goal of our grant was to provide a success coach model using a retention methodology to provide highly intrusive engagement and one-on-one coaching and monitoring of student performance and interactions with the college based on Inside Track's success coach model. And we selected Inside Track because we were operating within the high evidence to moderate evidence tier. And Inside Track is evidence-based and research confirmed. We found a study in the What Works Clearinghouse, which shows measurable impact on increasing retention for students who did receive this success coach strategy. We are in the midst of fully implementing our Inside Track training for our success coaches, and specifically the success coach that is on this grant. And that will be ongoing through the rest of the spring, over the summer, and even into the fall. Their training is quite robust and intensive, and is definitely not a modular one-off. Next slide, please. We are really encouraged by the results that we are already seeing with Laura's caseload of 301 single parents in career and technical education programs. When she was hired last fall, she immediately began contacting the parents in her caseload and having conversations with them. We have 45 career and technical education programs represented in her caseload. She has had a conversation with every single parent in her caseload. 116 are ongoing based on their at-risk level. She is currently managing 51 alerts, performance alerts, as well as alerts related to life barriers. She has distributed aid to support these students, childcare, transportation, and so forth. And she can speak more in the Q&A section about what her day-to-day looks like and what those interactions with the students look like. But the reason why we're so encouraged and hopeful to see what our fall-to-fall retention data look like is that 97% of her caseload was retained from fall to spring. So 97% of that caseload of 301 single parents were retained. And if you look at the overall single parent population in CTE programs at the college, which is about 655, I believe I have that right. only 67% were retained from fall to spring. And that is inclusive of her caseload. So if you remove her caseload, then it's actually 97% fall to spring retention for her caseload compared to 42% fall to spring retention for the single parents and CTE programs who are not in her caseload. And that's upwards of 354 students thereabouts. So we're really encouraged by the work that she's been able to do utilizing this highly intrusive and engaging one-on-one success coaching. And we will continue to monitor these students and intervene as necessary. And I want to conclude by noting too that one of the technology tools that she relies on heavily is our student engagement portal, which is provided by Watermark, which allows her to follow students in her caseload and monitor their performance in all of their classes, but also to see all of their interactions with the college, our support services, so advising, tutoring, counseling, legal, our advocacy resource center, and so forth. And this portal allows her the ability to create alerts that will trigger specific kinds of interventions, and just really to stay on top of those students and to use that real-time data to make decisions about which students to have more extensive one-on-one conversations with to perform needs-based assessments. So highly encouraged by where we are now with the fall to spring retention. And I think because the results have been so positive, it raises the question, of course, what are we going to start doing for the other single parents and CTE programs who are not in her caseload? And I can say that we were already in the process of finding the funds to hire another success coach outside of the grant, whom we can deploy to serve that student population as well. And so that's our presentation, and Laura and I will be available for questions at the end of the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank and Laura. We will, with no further delay, go into our our third presentation under this POP section of our annual leadership convening, Texas Southmost College. Will present on its POP program. We have today John Rodriguez and Dr. Angelica Fuentes of Texas Southmost, who will overview their program for us. I will introduce Dr. Angelica Fuentes first. Dr. Fuentes is the Associate Vice President of Institutional Projects at Texas Southmost College in Brownsville, Texas. Brownsville. Good town down on the good old Texas border.
Yes.
She earned her, yes, she earned her PhD in curriculum instruction from Texas A&M Corpus Christi, and earned her master's degree in education in curriculum and instruction from the University of Texas at Brownsville and at Texas Southmost College. Nice to meet another community college alumnus, Angelica. I am one myself. As Associate Vice President of Institutional Projects, Dr. Fuentes leads the institutional effort for retention, completion, and she oversees grant development. She also provides leadership for Perkins support for technical education in the 21st century, community college learning centers, after-school programming for K through 12 students. Dr. Fuentes' mission is to transform the border community in which she lives through innovative learning opportunities. Yes, good mission. I'll go on to introduce John Rodriguez. Angelica's partner in presentation today and a partner on this grant project. As the newest member of Dr. Fuentes' team at Texas Southmost College, John Rodriguez is proud to serve his community as coordinator for sponsored programs, grants and or contracts and grants for Carl D. Perkins. Life as a first-generation college student and former TRIO program participant and employee has helped John learn firsthand the importance of earning a credential, certificate, and/or degree program to improve the quality of life. John, you're yet another individual who works to serve community college students, who has himself been a community college student. I think many of us here today can join you, say they join you in that. John has worked part-time and full-time while earning his Bachelor's of Art degree in English, which he completed in 1999, his Master's of Art in English in 2002, all the while at the University of Texas at Brownsville, all while at the University of Texas at Brownsville and Texas Southmost College. With a professional background in government, public education, post-secondary education, and the nonprofit world, that's quite a combination. John Rodriguez aims to empower countless more individuals in his role at TSC, Texas Southmost, working with special population students. Angelica and John, the floor is yours.
Thank you for that introduction.
Good morning, everybody. We are going to be presenting on the Perkins Equitable Access and Opportunity Program here at Texas Southmost College. And just to let you all know, the reason that Dr. Fuentes and I are wearing traditional Mexican attire is this week is Chavo Days week here in Brownsville, which in my opinion, my humble opinion, is even bigger than Christmas. And it just proves that our community is very bicultural. As a matter of fact, we can step outside our offices and walk across the International Bridge into Matamoros, Mexico in about 10 minutes. And on that note, we will begin. Next slide, please. So why did TSC ask for funding for under the PAOP? We just mentioned, situated on the Texas-Mexico border. We are historically underserved. We're an area of persistent poverty. We have low educational attainment. At this point, actually, I remember when I was graduating with my bachelor's degree, the educational attainment of folks that were 25 or older was about 12 or 13%. Well, that's been over 20 years, and we are right now at about 20%. Have we moved forward? Yes, we have, but we still have a lot of room to grow. We have a limited access to state education dollars, and we have a student population, a sizable student population with basic needs and security. Next slide, please. Our goals for this program: goal 1, facilitate special student populations access to basic needs through college campus services and community-based organizations, as we call them, CBOs, otherwise also known as nonprofits. Goal 2, enhance the quality of instruction in career and technical education, CTE courses. Goal 3, embed academic support at the career and technical education course level. Next slide, please. Our goal, moving further into our goal, and we did secure funding under the Experience Program tier. Texas Southmost College continuously affords the opportunity to each and every one of their students surveys, and our multimedia department is very good about capturing student anecdotes. Texas Southmost College, as most institutions, has many programs that they provide to the community. And so we have a pretty rich content regarding surveys, student interest levels, and that sort of thing. Goal 1, facilitate special student populations access to basic needs through college campus services and CBOs. Pop-up pantries and campus food pantry. Recently, or about a year or so ago, when asked on the survey about food insecurity, we had several students and lots of students, provide a comment. For example, there's a lot going on and I'm struggling a little bit, but this ensures we have something to eat for the next few days. We'll make it stretch, said Seville. Additionally, we have CBO stakeholder meetings, partnerships with Walmart, Brownsville Wellness Coalition, and Valley Baptist Legacy Foundation. I won't go through each and every of the comments, but I will highlight when asked on the survey how TSE can be more accessible to the special population served, CBO industry and student stakeholders responded with the following.
I would just like to add with the first one, we just opened up a permanent campus food pantry and community garden greenhouse that will feed the food pantry. So the student was commenting on how that was helping, and we have pop-up pantries as well around campus.
Yes. So we're very excited about that. The survey respondents mentioned offer space to the CBOs to recruit. Clients need instant help, accessibility. Coalition, we just had Tuesday, actually, our community-based organization coalition, where we had about 20 local CBOs actually across Cameron County. And I believe there was one that also worked with Hidalgo County, our neighboring county, to the west. Collaboration starts at the high school level, meeting in person, speaking with students of industry. And regarding the CBOs, we are in the process of accommodating a minimum of 5 to 7 CBOs here on campus at Texas Alamos College at the Leitner Center.
Yeah. I was going to say, let's go through the quotes first, and then we'll get to the goals.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Next slide, please. Goal 2, enhance the quality of instruction in the CTE course. In spring 2022, a survey of about 400 student respondents showed that over 85% of respondents were satisfied or very satisfied with the quality of their online courses. For TSE criminal justice student Christopher Arellano, they've been a lifesaver. He stated there will always be financial stressors for students like me, and these classes help relieve that burden, said the 21-year-old. I've been able to move forward with my education, save money, and focus more on my studies. This is a great opportunity that is making the college education more accessible. We also have work and learn. Another student commented, bridging gap to hands-on, job assistance partnerships, work-study programs, and paid internships. When asked about their satisfaction with the paid internship, student recipients stated the following. For example, thank you very much for selecting me to receive the work-based learning opportunity grant. I will complete the rest of the required hours for the work-based learning. It has been a great experience interning at Tipton Ford, a local Ford dealership, and have learned a lot from doing so. Thank you again. Next slide, please. Goal 3, embed academic support at the CTE course level. Industry-based credentials, approximately 82% of workforce programs embed one or more industry recognized certifications or licenses. Credentialing work, that's Adriana Garcia, who earned an associate's degree in emergency medical science as a paramedic. And she commented, I really do credit Mr. Nelson for handling our training during the pandemic with grace. He did all he could to make sure we were prepared, and you know what? I was prepared and confident in my scope because of training. Tutoring, we had tutoring as well. What I think L25 is doing well is giving students the opportunity to get more practice and help with algebra. Yes, it helps us understand more and do better on the quizzes. One of the best things is doing well is that when we work on programs right after the class, that way we don't forget what we've learned. Next slide, please.
So thank you for that, John. So as Mindy mentioned, for this grant, we for the evidence-based proposals that we had to submit, we went through with the experience, because as you can see, TSC, we have like a year or at least 1 year of experience in all these pockets with basic needs, helping students with basic needs and instruction and academic support. But what we weren't able to do is identify or how is it helping our special student population? So we're doing the work, but we wanted to make sure that we were meeting the needs of our special populations, as is the goal of POP. So for the first goal, to facilitate special student population access to basic needs through campus services, we wanted to revamp our early alert system. Before, the early alert system was an email and it would get sent to someone and it never heard, no follow-up, no closing the loop. And so we adopted Starfish Early Alert, and I'm sure many of you use Starfish or a similar program. And we're building SOPs, standard operating procedures to go around Starfish and the support for Early Alert. We have workflows where everyone on campus knows what's the next step and who does what. Everyone has a role. We have Starfish referral ambassadors that are going to help close the loop and help coaches close the loop. And so with this, we're going to pilot this spring, and we're going to hope to help at least 200 special student populations to be tracked through Starfish and assisted. With that, and one of the with Starfish and the referral system, we always want to make sure that basic needs are met first. And so one of the things we would like to contribute to the whole state through this grant is how we worked with CBOs, community-based organizations. Because in the past, we, as many colleges do, we have a website, or we have a website where we list all these CBOs that could help. But then if you start clicking them, websites are outdated. CBOs, a lot of the local CBOs, they might not be, in operations anymore, and we didn't know that. So we found that we didn't have an active relationship with our community-based organizations, because we want to work with them for two reasons. One, they have services that can help our students, our current students right now. And two, they have clients that we can recruit to TSC right now. So one of the things we'd like to contribute to the Perkins world is how we vetted our CBOs. John, are you still there? You disappeared.
Yes, ma'am.
John, we recruited John, but he's from the CBO world for many years. And so I'd like for him to talk about, why it's so difficult for local CBOs, why it's important for us to vet them to make sure that they're going to be accessible to our students.
Just to let you know, you have 5 minutes left.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, as Dr. Fuentes mentioned, I do have a background in nonprofits for several years, both serving adults, children, and here in the Valley, as we have mentioned, and it's no big secret, we do have a lot of need. We have, again, as we mentioned, approximately 20% of our adult folks, do have, some type of credential or degree or certification. And so we do have a lot of need. I worked for about 2 years with a local homeless organization. And, during COVID, the need for services expanded tremendously. We doubled our intake when our case managers would sit down with clients, and mind you, a lot of these new folks, if you will, were folks, just like you and me. No one in their thoughts, oh, I'm going to need, food pantry services. I lost my own son. He was working at the island in the retail business, and he lost his job. And I supported them, but I'm not a member of the Kardashian family, and so there's only so much that I could help out with. So there's a lot of need, and as well on the other side of the token, our CBOs have a lot of, clients that are interested in moving forward. I think COVID kind of opened up a lot of minds and forward thinking that, I'm tired of, working a dead end job, and, I need to get a degree, I need to get a certification. And so having the CBO on site here at TC in a shared workspace, it's really a win-win, because our institution is better able to provide services to individuals that are interested in our many programs, and our CBOs have clients that are also interested in getting some type of higher education. And most of these folks have no clear idea of how to even approach an institution. And so we're very excited about this new venture.
Yes.
Capacity.
Bringing them, we're running out of time, so I want to get through this real quick, but we're bringing the CBOs on campus so the students can have access to them. And it started off with just bringing them with a few offices, and it's turned into, they've given us a building to host all these CBOs on campus. So if you go to the next slide, as we're working through them. So we also are working with our CTE courses. We are embedding high impact practices, work and learn opportunities. We partnered with AmeriCorps. And so they have great opportunities for students to get that first job experience. Syllabus management system, because communication with our special needs was not there. And of course, we always want to make sure our courses have embedded industry recognized certifications. But with all of this, the key was identifying our special populations. So now we are collecting data and making sure that we are directly impacting them. I know as a whole, we're helping our students, but I wanted to make sure that we can aggregate that data by the different populations. Can you go to the next slide, please? And then, of course, with non-traditional tutoring, we wanted to embed non-traditional tutoring. Again, the key is, how is it affecting our special population, and embedding additional academic support, supports. What we did was different. We use an asset-based mapping, where instead of going to everyone and asking them, what do you need, or where are you not doing well? We went to all the offices and we asked them, what are you doing right? And what can we do to build on that? And that changed everyone's thought about what they do here at TSC. So that exercise, which took the whole fall, we met with about 20 offices. It changed their way of thinking about how they approach work. And so that asset-based model has really transformed on how we look at how we're supporting our students. Next slide. So what we would like to do is put together, well, we are right now, manuals and templates with the starfish and so forth, but more in a way, we're going to colleges and we're pulling from websites, sharing is caring. But what we'd like to do is share a resource that any college could just take and then brand it. So we're piecemealing right now. We're taking from different places. The CBO ecosystem, we want to share how we vetted them, because we were calling and no one's answering, or they're not existing, they don't exist anymore. So we would like to share how we built that CBO ecosystem and how we vetted the CBOs and how we're inviting them to our campus to help, so the students have direct access to them. And we'd also like to share how we did the asset mapping as opposed to a deficit model, where we're looking for everyone's strengths and we're building on that. And we want to do that with our students as well. Once we identify our special populations, now I want to go into them. I want to, what can they add? What can single parents add to TSC? I mean, think about it. Who is probably the best at financing their family budget? A single parent. They have to make that dollar stretch. So we would like to host I don't want to say support groups, but communities or space here on campus where these single parents or all these different special needs can share common interests. If you go to the last slide I have, this is the building. Like I said, when we submitted this grant, it was just, let's just work with some CBOs, bring them on campus, like TANF and medical services and so forth, so they can sign up. You know, I sold it. This is great. This is great. And then about a month ago, they're like, this is bigger than just hosting a few CBOs on campus. You need a whole center. So this is our new building that they are fixing right now. Our offices, and John and I and a few of my other staff members will be moving to this building. And most of the offices are dedicated. They're all fixed up, or they're getting fixed right now. I'm not going to say they're fixed, but this is where we're going to host our CBO partners so they can have direct access to our students. And this is also the same place where we happen to be hosting our career and employment center and our counseling. And we built our food pantry, which was from another foundation, another grant. Our campus food pantry is in that building. So it just made sense. And they're all on the corners, and then the whole middle, just here, you know, this is going to be your new home, and this is where you will host CBOs. So this grant has really, you know, Mindy earlier was talking about, we have these programs, and then once the grant's over, it ends. No, this grant program has come to this building, and so it's just definitely sustainable, because they're not going to kick us out after this grant is over. We're squatting and we're not leaving. We look forward to measuring our success with our special populations. Thank you.
Thank you, Angelica and John. We are moving right along this morning. We will begin our fourth POP presentation. I hope to have rich time for discussion and a little Q&A after this session. So participants, please have your questions at the ready, and I will try to generate some questions for the grantees, and perhaps a question or two that all can join in. With that, I'll introduce our final presentation. Our presenter is Brenda Palomino of TSTC. I'm sorry, Brenda. I apologize. Belinda Palomino. Okay, all right. Belinda, my given name is Melinda. So you and I are kind of the Inda twins here, okay? Apologies for misrepresenting your name there. Belinda Palomino is statewide lead of the Advocacy and Resource Centers at Texas State Technical College. Prior to beginning her career at TSTC, she received her Bachelor of Arts in Communication Studies from the University of Texas Pan American. In her experience as an undergraduate student, she served as Ms. TSTC 2009. Well, student government president at TSTC, and became a sister of Kappa Delta Chi, is it Chi? Sorority Incorporated. Belinda is a member of Junior League of Harlingen, a board director for Keep Harlingen Beautiful, and she volunteers with the organization RAIN, R-A-I-N-N. Belinda received a master's degree of science in student affairs in higher education through Colorado State University. In her current role, she works with a team across 10 campuses to eliminate barriers for students, provide Texas-sized care, and create clearer paths to graduation. Belinda, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed being a part of this. This is my first time really being in the weeds and extra hands-on with grants. And so working with this one has just been a pleasure, and I'm really happy to be here. So thank you for this opportunity to share what we are doing at TSTC and to get to learn about what everyone else is doing. So we can go to the next slide. I did provide my contact information there, but like Mindy said, I essentially am the state lead for the 10 campuses, advocacy and resource centers. And essentially what you can find at our centers are social workers and other employees with social services backgrounds who assist students through our child care assistance program, our transportation assistance program, our lending libraries, our emergency aid assistance, our 10 campus food pantries. So you can find just a plethora of resources to try to get our students into the clearest path to graduation. They all have really unique obstacles, and so through our centers and through the staff that we have, they're able to meet one-on-one with students to really find out what their unique situations are, to see what systems are in place in their life that we can work together with them to try to help them overcome, and then ultimately place them in great paying jobs. So if you can go to the next slide, I'll give you a brief view of TSTC and the different locations that we have across the state. We have 10 campuses in West Texas and East Texas and Central Texas and South Texas and North Texas, everywhere, all across the state. And we have 4 values as an institution: excellence, accountability, service, and integrity. And our mission, to put it short, it's to place more Texans in great paying jobs. We have a very unique funding formula, and the way that we are funded is by the amount that a student is earning after they're placed in their job above minimum wage. And so our goal is not just to get them in the door, but keep them here, get them graduated, and get them into great paying jobs. And so we can go to the next slide. We'll start to talk about how we kind of got to this place. And so essentially, what we've found over these past years as we are helping students, especially after the pandemic, is that we are seeing a lot of our students who have already come in through the door who are experiencing homelessness. Not just couch surfing, but actual homelessness where they have nowhere to sleep for the night. And I think in 2020, we were a part of this survey. You know, we were a part of the Hope Center survey for Real College, and we found that 15% of our TSTC students who participated were actively homeless. And so it kind of kicked us into gear to try to see where it's coming from, how we can get ahead of it, how we can learn about it before it becomes an urgent matter once they are TSTC students. And so really what we decided to help them in this way through this grant is to develop this launch program. So this will be a pilot program. It's developed and will be delivered over 2 years. And we are focused on working with 2 very specific populations. It's the foster care youth students and students who are experiencing homelessness. So we can go to the next slide. It just provides a bit of an overview on how we are responding to the need. And so about 2% of Texas public school students are homeless. It's over 100,000 students in that time frame there. 248 high school students were identified as homeless in specifically the Waco Independent School District, where this grant will be helping. 86 of those students were also unaccompanied, meaning they're not in the care of a parent or a guardian, and fewer than that actually graduate high school. And so specifically in our area in Waco that we're focusing on that specific campus, there are organizations like the Cove, which is currently helping about 10 to 20 homeless students each month. And a number of these students have already expressed interest in TSTC. And so they just need this like extra encouragement and support. And kind of like Mindy said earlier, they just need hope. And through this program, we are hoping to give them some hope and show them that there is something better, that they have options too, and that we do care about them. And so we want to care for them through their graduation and their entire experience. And so a lot of these students just need to get acquainted to what the process is of pursuing a higher education and that kind of post-secondary training. We really want to get them to have these marketable skills that is going to set them apart and enable them to find gainful employment and become more self-sufficient, which ultimately leads to our mission of placing Texans in great paying jobs. And the other population that we're working with is foster care youth. And so according to the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services, more than 33,000 Texas children were placed in foster care in 2019. This is a very large group that continues to grow in the state of Texas, and it's a very vulnerable group of young kids. And maybe about 1,100 children were in foster care in 2021, and about 70 of them will be aging out now. And those 70 are opportunities for us to help guide them and give them the opportunity to get this training so that they can get a more stable and more secure future for themselves. And so essentially, this project is designed to address the needs of the homeless and the foster care students in Waco who may need assistance with like college enrollment processes, learning about benefits available to them like financial aid and that process. They need secure and supportive living environments, access to technology, academic and personal skills development to successfully complete technical training and be placed into employment. So next slide, please. Next slide. So ultimately, our goals through launch are to target students who have been homeless in the past 12 months or have been in the foster care system before enrollment at TSTC. And essentially, the goal is to enroll these at-risk students into technical programs at TSTC, provide them with on-campus housing and extra resources that are non-academic barriers, like transportation and childcare if that's needed, help them succeed to graduation with either a technical certificate or an Associate of Applied Science, and then also provide them with life skills programming to help prepare them for life after high school, college, and even post-college environments. So if you can go to the next slide, please, we can get a little more specific into the strategies that we're doing. In the next slide, you will also see that we are focusing on creating a pipeline to TSTC with homeless students working with the Cove and the area school districts, and foster care children working with Methodist Children's Home and the Texas Department of Protective Services and other organizations in the area that work with these at-risk populations. So we are recruiting and registering. We are providing tours of TSTC and special or specific technical programs that they might have an interest in. We are assisting with filling out enrollment and financial aid paperwork. And so this summer, participants will be given early access to on-campus housing, dedicated orientation sessions. They will be encouraged to create connections with their fellow cohort and begin their life skills training. So the life skills training are to address significant gaps of knowledge that maybe are already barriers or that are not necessarily provided to them because of the system that they're a part of. And so with these gaps, if we address them, we're hoping that our students are going to be able to have the opportunity to have this kind of adulting 101 sessions available to them where they can learn more about topics such as financial literacy, smart shopping and meal planning, planning for housing, both renting and owning, taxes, planning for emergencies, effective communication, problem solving and critical thinking, personal resilience, interpersonal relationships, and all of these other skills that you wouldn't necessarily learn in the classroom that maybe you learn at other places in your lives. Well, these at-risk students maybe haven't had those opportunities presented to them as consistently as other traditional students. And so our goal is to really expose them to them and give them an environment, a safe environment for them to practice these skills with some of people who have similar backgrounds as them or similar interests as them. And so it's a really exciting opportunity for them. And these cohorts will be loaned textbooks and notebook computers to ensure that they can complete all their formal and informal learning assignments. They have the opportunity to receive childcare assistance if it's needed for them, tools for their program, and transportation as needed. Just because, you know, these programs that we are training our students in have a really great success stories at the end, after the finish line, and they're placed in their job. They have great salaries. They're doing something hands-on, something that they love. And so a lot of the times, students don't have the monetary resources to buy a welding kit, you know, or linemen or line worker equipment. And so through this program, we're going to also be able to assist them with those costs, just set them up for success in the long run. So next slide, please. So essentially in year 2, we're continuing. We're hoping to have at least a 65% success rate from the first cohort, the original cohort that we will be working with. And so success to us is whether they have completed their 1-year certificate or whether they have been retained into the program to continue the 2nd year as they're pursuing that Associates of Applied Science. And so in addition to the first cohort, we have a goal of 20 plus students for the 2nd cohort that we'll be recruiting at the Cove and Methodist Children's Homes and all of the other places as well for the fall 2024 term. And if you go to the next slide, it'll give you kind of an idea of what these conversations will look like and the level of care that at TSTC we are calling Texas-sized care. And so essentially we have taken aspects of student development theory and aspects of social work principles along with motivational interviewing to create this guide. And that also comes with characteristics that our TSTC family and employees will use as they're interacting with these students. And so we call it HAND because we always say we're here to lend a helping hand. We're here to give a hand up. And so essentially what happens is when we first meet with students, we're assessing the risk, we're doing the intake, we're addressing any emergencies that they might be facing in that moment, either finding them a place to sleep that night. We do that often. And we are kind of assigning them a risk level, and depending on the risk level, that determines the frequency of the meetings. As we're advocating, we're now starting to connect them to other resources that are available to them and giving them the idea of a long-term solution and sustainability rather than something that they can hold on to at TSTC only. And then we help them navigate to those different resources that they are becoming aware of and getting access to. And then at the very end, we call it develop because it's a never-ending process. We're always going to be helping students, especially these students who are more at risk, in trying to get them in the right place in their life. But one way that we know that we have been successful after all of this and after hopefully the year or 2 that we'll be working with these students is we ask ourselves the question, because of our mission to place more Texans in great paying jobs, is the student ready to be placed in a high paying job? Do they have their resume? Have they attended a job interview practicum? You know, have they showed interest in anything in particular? Are they doing well in classes? You know, are they just ready with interpersonal relationships to be able to communicate well to keep that high paying job? And so it's a full process that my staff and I work with students on a day-to-day basis to make sure that they are prepared for the long run. And so at the very end, and as you can see at the next slide, the way that we will measure program effectiveness, on the next slide, you will see that essentially we have a short-term goals. So as the semesters are going through, we are working with our Office of Institutional Effectiveness to gather, their GPA, their persistence if they are persisting to the next semester, any other academic performance, retention, graduation data. And in the long term, we're going to be gauging that, not only that, but also their salaries, and see if we are able to place them in these high paying jobs and what that looks like compared to a student who hasn't gone through this program and who hasn't received assistance through a program like this. Because, what we hope happens is that there's an increased matriculation of homeless and foster youth into TSTC's technical programs, that there's a successful program completion rates for these cohorts. And of course, that they're successfully placed in a high paying job, because if ultimately this is what the data is showing, then it kind of adds a value that we already know. All of us in this call, we already know that if we eliminate these barriers for students, their chances of success is going to increase significantly, but this will help us put the data that we need to show this happens. And if you can see at the next slide, and after this one, that if there's a significant new enrollment from these two very specific populations, and if these participants performed better than other students who maybe are not receiving this, whether that be their graduation, their GPA, their retention rates, or placement into employment, then the program can be continued, because there would be this now proven kind of support for this type of service. And as it exists right now through our advocacy and resource centers, we have a similar program, but we aren't focused specifically on these two populations. But because of the increase and the rise of these populations and more students with these very two specific barriers in their lives are registering at TSTC, we want to make sure that we're providing them all of the help that we can provide them, so that that Texas-sized care, so that we can ultimately place them in a high-paying job, and then make them contributing members of our state and our society. So that's essentially our program in a nutshell. Thank you.
Thank you, Belinda. And thank you all who presented their programs under our new POP grant program project. We'll go on to Q&A for this. I want to ask, I wonder if I could ask all POP presenters to be on camera for this discussion.
All right, Mindy, while everyone is on camera, we have a couple of questions. The first one is from Ms. Canales. Can POP funds be used for non-credit programs? If so, does the program have to be a certain number of hours?
I'll take that one.
All right.
That's a good question. Now tell me again who this is from.
Daniela Canales.
Daniela, yes. Daniela, I'm glad to have this question because it provides an opportunity to clarify the purpose of the POP program. This is a student services program directed at special populations students as defined under the Perkins 5 Act. It does not support instructional programs directly. The programs the students are enrolled in are not a factor in their receiving services. They must be student populations or special population students. They must be enrolled in CTE programs. And that's the core focus of this. So your question gives the opportunity to clarify that. Thank you.
All right, the next question, I guess, is addressed to Angelica. Did ACC use grant funds to pay program costs for students?
Yeah, the only program cost we paid for through grant funding is the child care scholarships. Everything else went to salaries and yeah.
All right, for Amarillo College, the question is, are you using particular needs? Do you have a particular needs assessment format?
It's just one that we developed in-house and based on previous needs assessments that we've done for our poverty work. Happy to provide it. I believe Angelica asked for one, so I will be in contact with that. But yeah, it's nothing too terribly complicated, in-house developed.
Okay. The next one is directed towards Texas Southmost. Have you considered working with Texas Health and Human Services to train campus staff to help you with your Texas benefits application? And this is something we did, and it has been great for students. We are considered a, I'm sorry.
May I interject here? I may be wrong, but aren't we reading questions from a discussion that took place between the panelists on this POP?
Yes, but some of the
section?
it's not open to everyone. So
okay, good to get these into the record then. Thank you, Chandra.
Okay, I'm sorry about that.
Proceed, please.
Okay, it says we are considered a community partner for HSS, and it was just a thought. So it was directed toward the panelists, but now everyone can hear the question. Would you like for me to repeat it?
No, no, that's, oh, sorry.
Okay.
No, that's fine. Actually, Dr. Capuentes and I mentioned during our presentation, we're working with different CBOs. We're going through a vetting process. And since this is coming to fruition fast and furiously, we haven't stopped our vetting process. Not that the state needs to be vetted, but we're going through, like I mentioned also last Tuesday or 2 days ago, we had the coalition meeting. We had about 20 nonprofits. And some folks did say that they were going to attend, and life happens, so not everybody was able to attend. But as the project moves forward, we are going to reach out to additional potential, coalition members, and so thank you for that recommendation.
Okay. And at this time, Indy, I have no further questions in the Q&A or the webinar chat.
Okay, thank you, Chandra.
Mhm.
I'll go on to ask a few questions as your moderator. The first thing I want to do, though, is touch on one point that I believe where is our Texas Southmost presenter?
We're right here. Can you see us?
There you are. There you are. Okay. You know what? You moved over.
Did we?
Okay. I was looking down below on my screen. Angela and John, I think this has already been addressed in a question about another service you're offering in general, but specifically the food pantry program itself is also not funded with Perkins funds.
No, no, it wasn't. We had worked on it the year before. That was part of our experience, but to show that the students had the need for food insecurity. And so we are trying to get so students can apply for a SNAP on campus to complement that work. That was actually supported by a Valley Baptist Legacy Foundation that they gave us. So we built a campus food pantry and a greenhouse and community garden. But yeah, that wasn't funded by this grant, but we used it as our evidence, as experience that we see that there are these basic needs and securities on campus.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. And to all present, including participants watching, just for the record, as always, Perkins Special Populations Student Services Funds must be for services and needs directly related to instruction, including getting to campus for instruction and providing childcare for children while a student is receiving instruction, such things as that. Okay, I'll go on to the next question, and I'm going to direct this at ACC and at TSC again, not picking on Texas Southmost. Austin Community College and Texas Southmost College, you're serving your general student, your general special population student body, which are presumably already receiving a variety of services, both through your Perkins program and through other student supports on campus. What I wanted to ask is how you're identifying students to be served by this particular program funded under the POP grant. How are you identifying specific students among the general special populations student body in CTE?
Yes, I could answer that question first. So a lot of the services that we're offering through POP, of course, the general population, could benefit from it. So a big part of our need and the gap that we had is that identifying those special populations. So we are surveying our students to determine what special population category, I guess, if you will, that they fall under. And then we are following them. So we're collecting we collected baseline data in those courses and for those services. Then we're going through identifying who are special populations, the 9 categories. And then we are giving the service and so forth. And then again, we're going to survey and check those special populations to see if they improved in course completion or persistence and retention and so forth. And also if they're even aware of the services. We have found out that that's sometimes not even, they didn't even know that, we have support for single parents or military or veterans or so forth. So that in itself, we're going to measure to see, are you even aware these things are on campus? And so that's how we're identifying, we're surveying them, and we are aggregating the data by what category they fall under.
Okay, and how will you pull out the specific students? I didn't quite get that, to be served by the POP program itself.
We're addressing high failure rate courses.
Gotcha.
So high failure rate, sorry, I forgot that's a main point. We are addressing students enrolled in high failure rate CTE courses. So those are the students that we're pulling out and then identifying what category they're in.
I understand. Thank you very much. Angelica, can you address that question for ACC, please?
Sure.
How are you identifying students to be served under this program specifically from among your general special population CTE student?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Adult Career Scholars Program actually focuses on high demand skill majors already. So that they work with companies and organizations in providing scholarships for particular degree programs, and all of those are in the CTE area. So that already, in terms of outreach, that already focuses them only on CTE. And then this particular, and then we're also working with the health sciences dean in addressing any student who might already be in their programs, but having difficulties and needs the extra support of the Adult Career Scholars Program and the Student Advocacy Center program.
Okay, so if I understand you correctly, you're looking for basically internal referrals for students to this specific POP program.
Right, so it'd be both ways. So we'll have internal referrals, but the outreach that we're doing is for the Adult Career Scholars Program, which is all CTE programs. So when we do outreach in the communities or in the through adult ed and the continuing education programs, it is to students who we're encouraging them to go into this Adult Career Scholars Program, and they'll apply for it and everything. But the Adult Career Scholars only supports students who are in high demand CTE programs.
Okay, so that sounds like a broader group of students than, an identified cohort for this POP grant program. Do you have a way of differentiating among the Scholars Program for specific students to be served under POP, or are they one and the same?
They're going to be one and the same. The Adult Career Scholars has 150 slots for students that aren't in the POP program, and then there'll be 100 that are for the students who are in the POP program.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. Thank you both for that. And I wanted to go on to another dimension of the POP program that's that we've discussed, that is a dimension of the program. But let me go ahead and get on record here and ask you how you're planning for this dimension of it. I overviewed one key factor of the evidence-based grant making model a minute ago. It's structured reliance on objective evidence as the foundation for proposals. Another key factor is tracking each program's impact during and after the program. That's interim tracking, for persistence and other factors you identify. That's post-program for tracking outcomes. The intention of this tracking is to add to the body of evidence for what works for Texas and even nationally. Conceivably, some of our programs could end up in a national database that says we did this, worked this way, we had these outcomes. Now, the coordinating board is currently developing a program evaluation tool for the POP program itself. what I'm wanting each of you to talk about for grantees is how you're implementing student tracking and program evaluation for your local grants that will give you a record of what you did, how it worked, and what the post-grant outcomes were for your student cohorts.
Can you ask that question again? I'm sorry.
Sure. Key to our Perkins POP program is that we should, from this, have a trackable cohort that you can track through the program and out the program. So we would have a record of program outcomes for this project post-grant. My question is how you're implementing student tracking and program evaluation to build the body of evidence that what you did work, it had these outcomes.
So I can go first. Like I said, we targeted high failure rate CTE courses. So the students in those courses that are special populations, we are literally putting them in a cohort. We're using Collie. We also purchased Target X, which is a good recruiting, so we can actually recruit cohorts. When we get new cohorts of students, we can recruit them into, when we get incoming students, we can recruit them and we can put them in cohorts from the beginning. That's something new that actually came because I was asking, how are we tracking? How are we putting our students in cohorts to see if, you know, what we're doing is working? So right now we're doing a very manual. I literally get the rosters from the classes, find out, survey the students, find out what category they fit under, and then follow them as they persist through their coursework. So I'm doing it very manually, but we hope with Starfish and Target X that we can do this much more automated and identifying our cohorts.
Okay, well, and let's stop on identifying the cohort. Each of you have developed, each of your colleges has developed a mechanism for identifying your student cohort to be served under this grant. And let's hear more about that from Amarillo College.
Thank you. So this cohort of single parents and CTE programs at Amarillo College is being tracked initially for fall to spring retention, fall to fall retention, ultimately tracked for completion and time toward that completion with ongoing satisfaction surveys to measure their experience of the program components, and then post completion their job placement in workforce.
Okay.
And this is all facilitated with our Office of Institutional Research, who is providing us with the cohort tracking.
Okay, all right. So you have your institutional research team with your specific tracking plans for this identified cohort. And let me then, does anybody else want to talk further about how they're identifying this cohort for tracking? Each of us talked about developing program participants, but you're with that creating a cohort and have plans for tracking. Any other comments on that before we talk about, okay, let's go ahead and talk about student tracking itself, how you're going to track these students. I'd like to hear from TSTC and from ACC on this as well. How will you track these students through and out of and into the workforce to document program success?
Sure, I can go first. So with TSTC, and we currently work with our institutional effectiveness office to create dashboards for us to track students that we're already currently helping. And so we're just going to mirror the same kind of dashboards for these specific cohorts. And so these dashboards will allow us to see, and they're living dashboards. And so if we get a new student, we could just add them and it'll update the dashboard. And so We're able to see GPA, we're able to see by program their performance, like their academic performance, their persistence and retention rates. We're able to see pretty much anything that we want. We can create another dashboard to track salary earnings. So in the past, with another group of students, we've learned that when they receive or when they have like a co-curricular experience, they earn $4,000 more on average than students who don't, are engaged themselves outside of the classroom. And so we're creating a very similar dashboard to that to show salary earnings as well. We're also including post or pre and post surveys to get more qualitative data about the services that they receive so that we're able to kind of continue and improve upon. But we're also hiring an evaluator to help us kind of be really intentional with the results of what our dashboards and what this new data is telling us.
Okay, thank you. And is there anyone we've not heard from that would like to speak to this point? So each of you have identified a trackable student cohort, stage 1. You also have in place plans to track both participation, success, and post-program outcomes for this cohort. Very important. At some point, the coordinating board may offer to assist you in tracking these students beyond the program to look at outcomes, as they go into the workforce and other places. So it's important that, you do have a trackable student cohort. So we will, as we continue to develop our evaluation process, we will likely be communicating with grants on this to see how we might partner together. Any other comments or thoughts on the tracking, on the cohort and the cohort tracking process? Because this is a dimension of the POP program that we have not to date applied to the general leadership program. So, we're basically laying the groundwork, and we're basically building how to do this with you. Any further comments or thoughts? Okay, all right. Well, let me go on to my fourth question. This is a more general question. It addresses it addresses sustainability, and I'll come to that. But it's also the general challenge of community colleges. From their beginnings in the late 19th century, the American Community College idea has been accessible college for more individuals. And millions of people have found their entry to higher education in the door of a community college. Many of those people would not have attended, would not have earned any credentials in higher education had a university been their only choice. And I think we all know students that fit that. Maybe some of us fit that description. Well, that means that we have broad student bodies with a higher percentage of students with need, because these are students who have not walked an easy path into a university. They're in a community college for their own career development needs or education needs. They have more intensive needs for support many times so that they can make it through. There's a greater risk of attrition, of course, and the resulting higher number of non-completers. And then I come into these POP grants we have. You're targeting students at documented, essentially greatest risk. These are the 9 special populations. And with some of your targeted groups, especially TSTC with its focus on homeless and former foster children. You're attempting to make a difference where the making of the difference is greatest. Now, we have the PEOP grants. We all know, and here's where I'm headed, we all know that smaller numbers, more intensive needs mean greater associated costs. And that's the enduring challenge of every community college, to serve its students' needs with available funds. And my question is, given that these programs are a challenge to sustain over time because of the cost, how do your colleges intend to sustain these programs for continued impact? And you may only have a general idea of that at this point. And I'm going to take it that all of us going down to Brownsville and squatting in that beautiful new building is not going to be an option. My congratulations to you on that. And this is a place where I would invite also the general participant group here in our webinar to join in via the Q&A too. How are all of you how are you grantees thinking about sustaining these grants post-grant? I know you don't have firm plans yet. And if anybody wants to comment on how they're sustaining their student support systems by supporting the cost in some creative way, I think we're interested in hearing about that as well. Let's hear from the PEOP grantees.
So sure, I could start if that's okay. So we actually have seen a lot of growth happen at TSTC despite the pandemic that kind of threw a wrench in everyone's plans. And so 2 years ago, we had a team of 4 in our area, and we are now at the Advocacy and Resource Centers, we're now a team of 11. And so we are very optimistic about where the future is headed. I don't know exactly where that is, but even last week, like Angela, we were looking for other spaces because we've outgrown where we are. And I think that through these dashboards that I previously mentioned, we're able to show student learning, and we're able to show our community partners and our donors, and we're able to show everyone that what we're doing is really impactful to our students. And then we're able to share stories. There's been many stories in the papers about our students saying, like, if it weren't for this help, I wouldn't be able to get my job, or I wouldn't be able to get my family ahead. And so I think that although it is costly, I think that this grant, I have full confidence that we're going to be successful in helping these students, and I only anticipate more growth. And inspired by Amarillo College's culture of caring, we have been able to also implement that and spread the culture of caring here at TSTC as well. And so it's like teaching our enrollment staff, teaching our physical plant, teaching everyone that this belongs to them, that the success of our students ultimately is at the hands of everyone at the college. And I think because of that new mindset and culture shift, we have experienced so much growth in our institution.
Okay, thank you, Belinda. Other comments on how to sustain, how to keep the effort going as you lay these programs in place through the PEOP grants?
So for these first 2 years, we're really focusing on training everyone, training the whole faculty. We have success coaches, so creating scripts for them as they meet with students, you know, to ask those questions about basic needs before we get into the, oh, you need tutoring, you know, well, we got to ask those other questions first, right? The basic needs need to be addressed before academic. And so creating those scripts, training everyone. So when we don't have the funding, we've all been trained, we've all created the manuals, the scripts, the SOPs, so the work can continue. And the most important part, and Belinda mentioned this, is that we'll be able to track our students and show the impact. And we'll be able to talk with numbers as opposed to just, you know, we got into this grant with the experienced here with testimonies and surveys. Now we're going to be able to show the impact and the form of retention and persistence and completion. and say for this category, for single parents, for parents, this is what we're affected. For veterans, this is for homeless and so forth. So I think the need will show and we can quantify it, and the college can make the investment after that, or look for other funding sources that meet that particular need. So if we see a need for veteran, in fact, we are starting to see for female veterans, then go to those CBOs to see how we can make those lasting partnerships with those specific specialized CBOs to continue supporting our students.
Okay, thank you, Angela. And, I think you just brought up a good point. We're going to have, data from these trackable student cohorts. Each of you will have that. That's objective, those can contribute to the objective case you make for community funding, grants funding in subsequent years too. So you're building a body of evidence that you can use as local institutions. That's a good point to make. And I hear both of you talking about TSTC and TSC, talking about continuing to build that awareness on your campus so that students are less likely to fall through the cracks as they go about their business in their classes and in their campus days. Okay. Others, how are you planning in general on sustaining this program post-grant period? And I think I hear or see Angelica coming to the mic, as it were. Angelica.
Yeah, I think over the past decade, ACC has really focused on equity. And, my work in particular, because I do work with the Perkins Basic Grant as well, in terms of equity and CTE and special populations. So our whole special populations area actually grew from the Perkins Basic Grant and went from having one student advocate, what was then called a special populations advocate, to now we have 11 across, or now we have 12 across all of the 11 campuses. So I think just in terms of what we've done in the past, we've grown already. And then our future state looks like we've already have plans to grow even more. So our student care center, which is opening in the summer at Highland, there will be another one at Riverside. So there'll be several throughout the 11 campuses. And those student care centers will have food stores, clothing stores. And I say stores, it's all free, but we call them food stores. So that students will be able to access from whichever campus is closest to them. So I think already we've thought forward in terms of this is important to ACC. And so we are going to make it happen, and they will make it happen. ACC has always matched dollar for dollar anything that we get from the Perkins Grant for students in supporting students. And so we haven't had any pushback in terms of them not wanting to support on the other end in the same way that the Perkins Grant has been supporting our CTE students. In addition, we've accessed other areas. So right now we're part of a Family U cohort just to learn more about how we could be better at serving student parents and how we can change the culture around that. So we're working on that for the next 2 years as well. And that's going to only feed into the work that we do with this equity grant, because it's going to help us understand the culture and the services that we could be doing better for those student parents. So I think we're trying to piece all of this together with other grants and other opportunities to make sure that we are we're putting the best foot forward and that we're growing and continue to grow.
Okay, so looking for other grants. I note too that several of you have talked about adding to support staff over the years. And of course, that is, one of the major costs to improving student retention, especially for this most challenged population, special population students. Don't believe we've heard from ACC. I'm sorry, Amarillo College. ACTX on this point yet.
So really, it's very simple. We have 300 students, 97% of whom have been retained from fall to spring.
Mhm.
Our goal is to have 85% retained fall to fall. Those are already incredible outcomes from our perspective. So we are already allocating resources to fund institutionally another success coach because of this success. And I promise you that if our results from fall to fall retention are close to 85%, that these are going to be permanent positions that the institution is going to be happy to support because they'll pay for themselves because of the impact those coaches would be having on retention. So, I mean, this is very simple from our perspective.
Thank you, Frank.
Sure.
Do we have any general discussion, any further general discussion of sustaining these projects thrusts in particular, and sustaining the student support apparatus and growing it? And again, I'll invite into the Q&A any colleges who are in the audience today, if they have anything of interest that they might want to contribute. Okay, I will tell you that I know this really lies in some ways at the core. You documented that things work, and I think we have a unique opportunity to do this with the POP program. You develop new approaches through evidence-based grant making, which all of you are doing on one front or another. Some of you targeting very needy students in the process. And needy maybe is the wrong word, challenged. More challenged than more fortunate students to succeed. But keeping these efforts going, I know from my years at a small community college in Texas, really is the great challenge. And looking for resources to make that happen is always and ever the challenge. Perkins is able to step in and assist with that to some extent, but it is ultimately the commitment and innovative thinking of local colleges that really make this happen on the ground for their students. Do we have any other questions in chat or Q&A, or rather in Q&A, Chandra?
No, ma'am, we do not.
Okay. Okay, then. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe we have come to the end of our day. We've come to the end of this particular presentation section on our POP grants. We will be posting this recording on our website. We have a longer lag time in posting these days, so please bear with us, but we will have this up there for your reference at a later time and for the general public reference. With no other comments and no other business, I will thank all of you who presented today and yesterday. I will thank you for your work on Perkins Leadership Grants in general and on this POP program in particular. And I will just conclude by, offering my respect to each of you, really fundamentally as one of you, because this has been my, lifelong career, the community college and its students, for the work you do. Everybody go forward, continue your work. Thank you for being here with us these past 2 days. And thank you to my staff who organized this event. Good day, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.